Hey, Nicole Roberts Jones here, and welcome to yet another episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast. And I'm excited. We are in a series called Navigating Difficulties at Work. This is part two, where we're going to talk about how to have difficult conversations, right? So if you missed part one, I'm going to go grab a pen because this one I'm going to give you I gave you some great insight and I always will give you tools, but I'm going to walk you step by step a tool that I got from my mentor years ago that I've used and coached clients both in corporate, Fortune 500, 200, 100 companies, as well as entrepreneurs, as well as celebrities and heads of state that I've worked with. This is a tool that I have used with all of those kind of people. So no matter what level you work in, this tool will help you have difficult conversations. All right. So again, we're talking navigating difficult conversations. This is part two. So quick review of part one. 3 ingredients to deal with conflict. So having difficulties at work. Number one is the golden rule. Number two is choose wisdom over feelings. And number three, accept things and people for what or who they are. Or I could say, accept the things you cannot change. Now, listen, I'm going to play off of that. So if this is your first time listening to me, the way I do in every series is one builds off the next. So I'm always going to teach from one to the next, but you will need both or all, because I've got some series that are 3-part and 4-part. This one is 2-part. And you'll need both parts if you're going to listen. If you're going to live as the highest and best version of who God created you to be, there's a Bible verse, Matthew 5:16, that says, which is one of my missions, to let your light so shine among men that they would see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So in order for your light to fully be shining, you've got to understand how to deal with difficult, because the difficulties will dissipate your light. The difficulties will dim your light. The difficulties will make you look less than who God created you to be, and can totally take away every blessing that God has bestowed on you that you've worked so hard for. One moment. Look at Will Smith, the slap. Bad decision. Look at Tiger Woods. Years of bad decisions. But either way you look at it, it dissipated their entire brand. And you do not want the same for yourself. All right. So now here in part two, we are going to talk about navigating, or I'm going to give you tools to have difficult conversations. And by the way, those of you that are listening in, you know what I'm going to say. If you're listening on any of our audio channels, to come on over to YouTube. nrjnetwork.com is my YouTube channel. nrjnetwork.com is where you go so that you can get all the slides, because this one is going to be a lot in a good way. But I'm going to walk you step by step through this tool that I got from my mentor years ago. So 3 components to having difficult conversations. Now, the first one is what? To have the conversation. All right. So this is where I'm going to walk you through the tools. But before I walk you through the tool, I'm going to walk you step by step through it. I'm stalling so you can get your pen if you don't already have it. But let me start with this Bible verse, because I always got to bring in some Bible. Matthew 7:1-5. Moreover, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he hears you, you have gained your brother. So how do you go and tell him his fault? How do you go and share when someone has hurt you or challenged you or done something that has bothered you at work? And this works on a personal level too, right? So here we go. Communication outline. Step 1 is go to the person. You want to go to them within 24 hours. Why? Because one, if you don't, sometimes the feelings begin to just plant a seed that gets watered, whether that person does something else or somebody else does something else. So if you don't go within 24 hours, it will grow. So you want to go to them. So whether you send them an email, don't have the conversation in the email. Say, hey, I need to chat when you have a second. Whether you stop by their office, whatever it is, within 24 hours. No gossiping. Don't go start talking to everybody else about it. Talk to that person about it. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2, start the conversation with an affirmation. You might say something like, what I love about you is, or what I admire about you is, what I appreciate about you is, what I respect about you is, ... right? You don't have to say all 4, but you want to start with affirmations so that you're starting it and you're setting a positive atmosphere. What I really appreciate about you is that you are such a hard worker and you always are on top of task and you're really great at doing that. What I really appreciate about you is how creative you are and how you always bring such phenomenal ideas to our team meetings. Okay. Here's where I need your support. This is part two of that same conversation, right? Share where you need help or need support or wherever they've hurt you, right? Today when we were talking, you brought up some great suggestions, but here's what will work better for me. Or here's how you can support me. Because maybe they said something and rubbed you the wrong way. So instead of going, you did this and it's point the finger at yourself. Here is what I need. Not you did this and you were wrong and no, you didn't. And that's okay. That's how I would feel, right? You guys see me on camera and doing my head and stuff, how I would feel, my old Nicole, just inside my head always. But instead, here's what would work better for me. Share where and how you can use their support, especially around that moment. Okay. And then you got to listen. You got to listen to their response. And as you listen, affirm what you hear. What I hear you saying is, because then you're making sure you're on the same page, because maybe what you're hearing and what they're saying is two different things. And they may course correct, right? Or I take responsibility for. Because maybe they might say, well, what you said did this, that, and the other, and they might be negative. Okay, well, I take responsibility that I may have hurt your feelings. But how can we come to a place where I can get this thing from you, whether it's a report, whether it's right? Because again, it's giving you an opportunity to level set and have a conversation and to hear them as much as they hear you. Okay. So those are the 4 steps. Go to the person within 24 hours, start with an affirmation, share where or how you need support. Make it about you, not about them. And as they affirm, share what you hear. What I hear you saying is, I take responsibility for, because they may share something that you did that you didn't realize that you did. And even if it wasn't your intention, it doesn't matter. Listen, a relationship, let me come on camera for this. Think about the word relationship. The first part of relationship is relay. So it's all about how we relay to each other. And if you're not friends, you're not colleagues, you're just getting to know each other, you could be two totally different people. You function totally differently. So the way you think you want it to go out and the way it's received could be two totally different things. So the conflict that has arisen could be one that you created. Now, in part one, I shared the story of one of my team members that used to come in my office crying every month, every time I did a check-in meeting with her, right? Oh, now I didn't have to go to her 24 hours. She was in my office. So I said to her, what I appreciate you is that you are the hardest working trainer we have on our team. But I want to understand, how can I support you? Because you seem like you're really upset or you're hurting about something. I made it about me. Not you always coming in here crying. That's what I wanted to say. And we began to talk about what that looked like. And I promise you, she was a whole different person within 24 hours. Okay. Some of these you'll use every single step. Some of them you won't. But keep in mind, the conversation may not be an easy one. It may not be an easy one, but as you have the conversation, you want to, if you have a request, make a SMART request. Now, remember SMART, you guys, SMART goals, right? Specific, measured, attainable, relatable, and time sensitive or timely. So again, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, I said related, relevant, or time sensitive. So make it a SMART request so that you can then easily measure if the request was met. Now I'm talking workplace. You can do this at home too. I can have smart conversations with my husband and be specific and measurable. Can you by Friday? Right? What I need from you is by Monday. What I would love to see you do in the next month by whatever the next month is, the first of next month. You can make a total request that is smart. And listening is the key here. I think when I see people having conversations, this is me as well, y'all. So I'm out myself here too. Listening is hard because you think, oh, I have this thought and I don't want to forget it. At least this is what I think. And so you interrupt. But if you can just hold that thought, knowing that it'll come back if it's meant to, letting that person feel fully heard, it really will help that communication moment, right? So you want to communicate specifically to that person and give your word to them immediately. I honor you, I see you, I acknowledge you, is in essence what you want to do at the end of that. I honor you, I see you, I acknowledge you. Again, in a perfect world, we all would be on the same page, friends, all have the same values and beliefs, but there's no such thing. We live in a world where everybody has different viewpoints, beliefs, values. So you've got to really understand that they may not see things the way you see them, but if you can get to the result you need to get to, that's the whole purpose, especially in a work environment, that you're having this conversation. Okay. Which moves us to number two here. So, number one is to have the conversation. Number two is leave their human dignity intact. So, although you may not agree, although you may not like what they're saying, although you may not like them as a person, if I'm going to keep it all the way real, you still can honor their human spirit. What I appreciate about you, what I honor about you, that's why you start the conversation in that place, because you start with their dignity intact and you want to leave them the same way. Okay. No Bible here. Ephesians 4:29. Ephesians 4:29. Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification according to the need of the moment, so that it will give grace to those who hear. Hmm. It's good for edification. How do you edify, lift up this person? How do you honor who they are? Not what they did, but how do you honor the who they are as a human being, even when they're wrong? I've had assistants that I've had to reprimand, and I always start. What I really appreciate about you is this. I've had people that I've let go of, and in the letting go conversation, I still say the things that I have loved about you. I remember the last our I can't think of her title right now. Our client relations person who I had to let go. What I really appreciate about you, and I wrote a whole long list, but unfortunately, we're making some changes, and I hate to say this, but this was going to be your last month. Hardest decision I've ever had to make. But because we're doing some shifts, but I honored her. And then at the end of it, I thanked her and she thanked me. And we had almost like a love fest on the phone because I honored who she was instead of just letting her go. I honored that she had brought significant strides to our team, that she had made a significant impact. So even if you don't like the person, having difficult conversations, you still want to honor who they are and the role they're playing in your business, on your team, in your life, if it's a life partner, right? So you always want to honor their human dignity. You want to keep that in mind. See, I said this, I think I said this in part one. Let me say it here in part two. Negative emotions take so much energy. When you're in a negative place and you're acting out of a negative emotion, it takes so much energy. And that energy drains you and zaps out of you. Positive emotions give, pour into you, pour back into you long term. It's like making a deposit. Is the difference between a withdrawal and a deposit. And negative emotion is a withdrawal. And if you keep going to the bank and you withdraw and you withdraw and you withdraw and you never deposit, what happens? Yeah, there's no money in the bank. But if you keep making deposits and deposits and deposits, you have money saved. You have reserves. And so when you think about having these hard conversations, you want to think about, how do I make a deposit? That deposit is leaving that person's human dignity intact. It's honoring who they are as a person. It's loving on them regardless of who they be and how they be. It's you have a choice in any given moment. If you go back to part one, where I said, what would Jesus do? Jesus would always leave people's dignity intact. When we look at King Solomon and the two mothers, who one was saying one baby was hers and the other dead baby wasn't hers. And he didn't touch the emotion. He didn't say, ooh, you trifling, and no, you didn't. And, he gave them a test and made a resolute decision, leaving human dignity intact because he didn't have to do a thing. The situation spoke for itself. And sometimes if we can rise above our who gonna check me boo that's in us, that spirit that said, no, she didn't, no, he didn't. And believe me, I felt like that plenty of times. And if I acted on the no, she didn't. Now, those of you that know me, if you ever see me in a committee meeting or in an organization or in a team meeting and I'm quiet, it's because my who gonna check me boo is present. I'm trying to calm her down so she can leave. And I can leave whoever's dignity intact that I'm getting ready to say something to. There's no such thing as perfect. There will be times that all of us mess up, including me and you. And as I think my grandmother said this to me, it might have been my grandfather, I don't remember, but a soldier that falls on his own sword is the best warrior. So sometimes you might have to fall on your own sword and say, I apologize to you. And I admire you for even having the courage to come and have this conversation. And then figure out how to resolve it. Even if you don't agree with that person, they do have the right to have their feelings, y'all. That's how you honor their human dignity. Because ultimately, what you're trying to do is number 3, focus on bringing peace. How do I bring peace into this situation? How do I not allow the negative to hinder me and hurt me and leave me in this negative place? How do I move from negative into positive, right? So listen, Bible verse here says, this is Galatians 6:1. If anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Come on, somebody, spirit of gentleness. Again, leaving their human dignity intact. What good does it do for you to yell at someone in front of a whole group of people? What does that do? It diminishes them and makes them feel bad and makes them look bad. It ultimately diminishes you and makes you look bad, even if that person is in the wrong. You know, I think I said this in our last series, our God Wants You to Be Wealthy series. You are a brand. And every day, how you deal with situations, especially difficult situations, either it pours into your brand and makes a good, healthy deposit, or it makes one of those withdrawals. And listen, I said this a minute ago, we don't live in a perfect world. So you're going to make some withdrawals. But if you make too many withdrawals and you never deposit any positive anything into the brand called you, into your team, into your business, into your career, then at some point, things are just not going to work out the way you want them to, right? I'm going to give you a couple other Bible verses to support you here. Talking about grace and gentleness, right? Ephesians 4:21, I said that one already. Colossians 4:6, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. I remember one of the jobs that I've had, I worked at First Amy Church. I was a director of the Family Resource Center there. And I remember a pastor said to me once, pastor used to call me into every meeting and I didn't understand why. No matter who was at the church, and by the way, First Amy at the time, 18,000 members. And any meeting he had, it could be a mother on substance abuse. It could be the governor of the state of California. That did happen. Anywhere in between, I always got called into the meeting. And I asked him after a while, why did you do that? And he said, because no matter what you said, he said, you could tell somebody about themselves and they could be bleeding, walking down the street, cut, and they wouldn't start bleeding until they're walking down the street, meaning that they wouldn't even know that I had told them something bad about themselves or something they needed to do that wasn't good until they processed it later. Because he said, I did it in such a dignified way. But I said, Pastor, I learned that from you. I learned to leave people the way that you want to be treated. So even if it's bad news, I try to present it in a way that honors who they are, as hard as it is. And sometimes you got to find those words way before the meeting starts, right? Galatians 6:1, if anyone is caught in, I said that already, in a transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Said that one already, right? So let me leave you with this one. John 14:27, that says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you, not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled. Let it, excuse me, let me start over. This is Jesus talking, by the way. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. So in any given moment, whether you're dealing with difficult people or having difficult conversations, you have an opportunity to stop and process and look at all the ways you can leave the person's human dignity intact. You can use that 4-step process I just walked you through, which is, let me go back to this slide so you can see it, right? And I'm going to tell you, this has really blessed me. To one, go to the person within 24 hours. Start the conversation with an affirmation. What I appreciate about you is, what I honor about you, what I love about you is, oh, the thing that you are so phenomenal at is. Share where you need support. Here's what would help me. Here's where I need help and what would work better for me. And then as a share, affirm what you hear. I hear you. What I hear you saying is, and I take responsibility for, because they're going to share things with you about yourself. You want to always leave them better than they came, right? Make the request. Set them up to win as you do, though. That's why you want to make them smart and make a smart request. Okay. And then above all else, listen. Listen, give them the time and space. Sometimes I found that when I'm dealing with difficult people, they haven't had people to listen. They don't feel heard. They are struggling with the, remember walked you through the three areas of conflict. They're struggling with power. They're struggling with differences. They're struggling with value conflict, whatever that is, which usually is not none of your business. But their inability to honor who you are in the middle of it is your business. And how you deal with it in that moment can make the difference. So that's it for this series, y'all. Having difficult conversations is part 2. Dealing with difficult people is part 1. I look forward to hearing your comments, your insights, your feedback. Again, giving shout out to Felicia who sent us an email. Listen, you guys can do the same. Send an email with questions, thoughts, comments, and you never know. You might be the very catalyst for the next series or the next group of people that I interview for this podcast. And where you send that is send it to, trying to put it up on the screen, info@ NicoleRobertsJones.com. Again, info@ NicoleRobertsJones.com. Love to hear from you. Actually, would love to hear your takeaway, your insight, right? Now, I ask you to do this every episode. I'm going to ask you to do this here as well. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your aha moments. I want to hear what areas you're going to use or what you may use. Or when you use it, I want to hear that too. So listen, if you're watching me here on YouTube, comment here below. And I do read every single comment. It's important for me to hear back from you because I'm not here for me. I'm here for you. So I need to hear from you, one, or come on over to social media. Instagram is my favorite. So come to my post for this episode and make a comment there. It's so important for me to hear feedback from you because ultimately the Meaningful Work podcast is about pouring into you so that you can have work that gives your life meaning. Is to give you the tools, insight, and strategy to do that. And so I want to hear from you when you are using the tools and they're working, when you have needs so that I can pour into you and anywhere in between. All right. So with that said, last thing I'm going to ask you to do is share it. Share it, whether you go onto Instagram and share it there, and you can share the link there, whether you go on Facebook and share it in Facebook, or whether you take the link here in YouTube and text it to all your friends and followers and say, listen, this is the value I'm getting. And then tell them the value you're getting out of these episodes. And you thought you want to share it. Because again, you never know who could benefit from the insight in these episodes. All right. So with that said, that's it for this episode. I look forward to seeing you for our next episode of the Meaningful Work Podcast. Bye, y'all.